Begins by introducing us to Riley Flynn, a man who, while driving under the influence, tragically struck a young woman named Tara with his car. Riley himself was unharmed in the accident, but Tara lost her life. Although the incident was accidental on Riley's part, he was convicted for Tara's death and sentenced to 4 years in prison. During his incarceration, we see Riley as a man of faith, diligently reading the Bible daily. However, his nights in prison offered no solace. He was relentlessly haunted by visions of the deceased Tara. Time eventually passes, and after 4 years, Riley is released and returns to his hometown, Crockett Island. Crockett Island is a small, isolated fishing community with a population of only about 100 to 150 people. The local economy primarily relies on fishing. However, a year prior, a significant oil spill in the surrounding waters decimated the fish population, causing many residents to leave the island in search of better opportunities. The majority of the island's inhabitants are Christian, and there is only a single church. As Riley disembarks from the boat and sets foot on his home island, he is greeted by his mother, who has come to meet him. She has forgiven him for the car accident that occurred 4 years ago, but Riley's father has not yet extended the same forgiveness. Riley, too, has undergone a significant transformation during these 4 years. He is no longer the devout man he once was. His faith in God has completely eroded. On their way home, Riley and his mother encounter Sheriff Hassan, Crockett Island's law enforcement officer, who greets them. Sheriff Hassan is seen taking Joe, a local alcoholic, into custody. He apparently does this regularly to prevent Joe from wandering off and getting lost while intoxicated. We are then introduced to Erin, a young woman who appears to be pregnant. She is shown visiting Dr. Sarah, the island's only doctor, for a routine checkup. Both women notice Riley and his mother returning, and it's revealed that Riley and Erin were once romantically involved. Even back in his own home, Riley finds no peace at night, still tormented by visions of Tara. The narrative then shifts to Riley's younger brother, Warren, who, along with his friends Ali, the sheriff's son, and Uker, takes drugs to a secluded spot on the other side of the island by boat, where they indulge in substance use.
Meanwhile, the islanders gather as Sheriff Hassan and the mayor inform them of an upcoming severe storm expected the following evening. They advise everyone to stay indoors and, if the storm intensifies, to seek shelter at the church. At this gathering, Bev Keane, who manages the church's affairs, attempts to belittle Sheriff Hassan, primarily due to his Muslim faith, as Keane harbors prejudice against people of other religions. Bev Keane is depicted as a malevolent woman with an inflated sense of her own intellect who is envious of other faiths and actively tries to convert people. Later, during dinner, Riley's mother asks him to accompany her to church the next day. Riley declines, stating he no longer believes in such things. The scene then moves to the church, where everyone has gathered for morning prayer. We see the mayor's wife, Dolly, and their daughter, Lisa. Lisa is wheelchair-bound, having become disabled after being shot in the leg sometime prior. Riley's mother has managed to bring him to church against his will. Inside, they learn that a new priest, Father Paul, has arrived. Father Paul introduces himself and begins the morning prayer. After the service, he administers communion, offering wine and bread to the congregation. The new father makes a positive impression on the attendees. That evening, a fierce storm with heavy rain batters Crockett Island. Through his window, Riley spots a figure, resembling Father Paul, standing on the shore amidst the tempest. Riley rushes out to help, but the figure vanishes. The next morning, Riley's family discovers numerous dead cats washed up on the beach, their necks seemingly broken. This gruesome sight alarms them. The mayor, fearing a potential epidemic, orders the cats to be removed and buried. We next see Father Paul visiting Dr. Sarah's home. He has come to read morning prayers to Sarah's ailing mother, Mildred, encouraging her to trust in God. Father Paul also gives Mildred some of the church's communion wine. The following day is Easter. Everyone attends church, where Father Paul delivers a sermon filled with wisdom, urging them never to lose hope in life. Riley was previously required to travel to the mainland for his Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. Father Paul, having learned of this, arranges for Riley's AA meetings to be held on the island to save him time. AA meetings are support groups for individuals seeking to overcome alcohol addiction. Riley was legally mandated to attend these meetings due to the fatal accident caused while he was intoxicated.
Meanwhile, the mayor and others are enjoying an Easter party. Joe arrives with his dog, which visibly angers the mayor and his wife, Dolly. Their exchange reveals that Joe was responsible for Lisa's disability. He had accidentally shot her in the leg, rendering her unable to walk. During this party, someone poisons and kills Joe's dog. Sheriff Hassan's investigation reveals that Bev Keane had recently purchased rat poison, leading him to conclude she was responsible, as she disliked Joe's dog. Later, Riley attends his AA meeting with Father Paul. The father engages him in a discussion about religion and God, which agitates Riley. He angrily tells Father Paul that he doesn't believe in God, arguing that if God existed, Tara wouldn't have died at his hands, and his life wouldn't be in ruins. If God existed, the mayor's daughter, Lisa, wouldn't be confined to a wheelchair. If God existed, so many homes wouldn't have been destroyed in the recent storm. Father Paul listens patiently to Riley's outburst, responding that God tests people in various ways. Following this, we see Riley and Aaron conversing once more. That night, on the other side of the island, a drug dealer named Bowl is attacked and killed by a strange monster, which then drinks his blood. The next morning at church, Father Paul distributes bread and wine. This time, however, he asks the mayor's daughter, Lisa, to walk to him to receive communion. This suggestion initially angers the crowd, but then, miraculously, Lisa stands on her own feet and walks towards the father. This astonishing event leaves everyone dumbfounded. The mayor and Dolly weep with joy. Immediately after healing Lisa, Father Paul becomes ill and quickly retreats to his room, coughing up blood. After Father Paul's miracle, islanders begin flocking to him, hoping for solutions to their own problems. Bev Keane encourages them, saying that if they attend church regularly, God will soon show them mercy too. This miracle revitalizes faith in the church throughout the island. Consequently, Keane distributes Bibles to all the school children to take home. This action displeases Sheriff Hassan, a Muslim, especially since his son Ali has brought a Bible home. Hassan raises this issue at a school meeting, but finds no support except from Aaron. Those regularly attending church begin to experience remarkable improvements in their health. Riley's mother can now see without her glasses, something previously thought impossible. Riley's father's chronic back pain disappears. Dr. Sarah's mother, Mildred, also recovers and starts walking again, a seemingly impossible recovery. A common factor among all those experiencing these healings is their daily attendance at church and consumption of the wine given by Father Paul. Talk of the church's miracles is widespread. Influenced by this, Sheriff Hassan's son, Ali, asks to go to church, but the sheriff refuses, believing that something other than God or the church is responsible for these events. At this point, everything on the island seems to be improving. Many believe the island has been blessed by God. However, one peculiar thing is occurring. Father Paul is gradually growing weaker. He is also seen secretly adding a blood-like substance to the communion wine. Lisa, now recovered, slowly regains her ability to walk. She starts spending time with Riley's brother, Warren, revealing a mutual affection. One day, Lisa visits Joe and forgives him for the accident that crippled her, choosing to move past it. Joe is overjoyed by her forgiveness and weeps, and Lisa encourages him to quit drinking. That night, Riley goes to Father Paul for his AA meeting and finds Joe there as well. Father Paul informs him that Joe is now determined to change and has decided to stop drinking. Riley is genuinely happy to hear this. Riley and Aaron also grow closer, developing a strong friendship. The scene shifts back to the church, where Father Paul suddenly collapses unconscious during prayer. A flashback then reveals Father Paul's backstory. The church's former priest, Monsignor Pruitt, critically ill and nearing the end of his life, had journeyed to the Holy Land hoping for well-being. Due to his advanced age and deteriorating health, his time was running out. During his pilgrimage, he became separated from his group and was caught in a sandstorm. He found refuge in a dark cave. Upon lighting his lighter, he encountered a creature resembling a vampire. The monster began to drink his blood, but instead of killing Monsignor Pruitt, forced him to drink its own blood.
Decades washed away.
When Monsignor Pruitt awoke the next morning, he found himself young again. The vampire's blood, it turns out, possesses the power to rejuvenate and heal any illness, which is what happened to him. It is revealed that Monsignor Pruitt is, in fact, Father Paul, who has returned to Crockett Island in his rejuvenated state. He believes the monster is an angel that granted him youth. Consequently, he brought the monster back to Crockett Island with him, concealed in a crate, intending for everyone to receive its blessing. Father Monsignor Pruitt, now Father Paul, had been secretly lacing the communion wine with the vampire monster's blood. This was the reason for the miraculous healings among the sick islanders. Dr. Sarah's mother was also becoming younger and healthier each day due to this. The vampire's blood could heal any injury or illness. One night, Bev Keane, the mayor, and his wife Dolly are at Father Paul's house discussing an upcoming party, when the father suddenly vomits blood and collapses. The mayor checks his pulse and finds that he is dead. However, Father Paul then abruptly awakens, an impossible occurrence. He had died and returned to life. Keen proclaims it a miracle from God, but the mayor and Dolly are terrified. Next, we see Erin visiting Dr. Sarah for her routine checkup. Dr. Sarah informs her that the baby is no longer in her womb. She has somehow miscarried without realizing it. Such an event seems impossible, but impossible things have become the norm on the island. Devastated by the news about her baby, Erin nevertheless travels to the main line for a second opinion at a larger hospital. The doctor there tells her she was never pregnant to begin with. Erin, bewildered, insists, "What are you saying? I saw it on the sonogram monitor with my own eyes. I felt its heartbeat." Finding the doctor's assessment preposterous, Erin returns to the island. That same day, Erin meets Riley at her home and shares her grief. She tells him about her baby and also opens up about her past. Her mother was a cruel woman who verbally and physically abused her in childhood, always wanting a son. At 16, Erin ran away from the island. She briefly pursued acting in big cities, but eventually married a man who, like her mother, would beat her when drunk. Then she discovered she was pregnant. Her child represented a new hope for her life. So she left her husband and returned to Crockett Island to start anew. But now, her hope, her child, was gone.
Riley begins to cry. He confides in Erin that his life has been a living hell since he accidentally killed Tara. He too suffers from sleepless nights. They share a deeply emotional moment. Riley promises to visit Erin again the next day. Meanwhile, Father Paul, after his resurrection, finds he can no longer tolerate sunlight. It burns his skin. He has, in fact, become a vampire because the monster's blood was in his system when he died. Now, any person with vampire blood in their system who dies will resurrect as a full vampire. Father Paul is now a vampire, though he is still unaware of this fact, believing his condition to be a divine gift. Bev Keen enters his room and tells him that she, the mayor, and Dolly know he is Monsignor Pruitt. Having seen his youthful photograph in his room, they vow to keep his secret, as Keen now views the father as a manifestation of God, given his rejuvenation and return from death. As Keen leaves, Father Paul feels an intense hunger, but not for food. He clenches his fist tightly, and blood begins to seep from it. He cuts his hand with a cross and drinks his own blood. Father Paul has truly become a blood-drinking vampire and will now experience an insatiable thirst for blood.
As night falls, Father Paul goes to pray with Dr. Sarah's mother, Mildred. This time, Mildred recognizes him as Monsignor Pruitt, as they were close friends in their youth. She asks him how he became young again. Father Paul replies that it's simply God's blessing, urging her to accept it as well. Later that night, Father Paul feels the urge to drink blood again. Just then, Joe arrives at his house, unable to stay sober and hoping the father can help him. Father Paul embraces Joe, saying, "I'm proud of you," then grips him tightly. Joe struggles to break free but can't. In the scuffle, Joe's head hits a table, killing him. Unable to control himself any longer, Father Paul begins to drink Joe's blood. Bev Keen arrives and witnesses this. She tells Father Paul it's not his fault, claiming God did it for their benefit. She then summons the mayor and his associate, Sturge, instructing them to dispose of Joe's body in the sea. Bev also tells the mayor that Joe was a blight on the world, responsible for crippling his daughter, and reminds him who healed her, implying he shouldn't mourn Joe's death. Keen views Father Paul as an instrument of God, and since the mayor's daughter was healed because of him, they agree to cover up the incident. The next evening, Riley arrives at the hall for his meeting with Father Paul. He asks about Joe, wondering why he isn't there. Father Paul claims Joe went to the mainland to visit his sister. Riley immediately knows the father is lying, because Joe had once mentioned in conversation that his sister died a long time ago. Riley leaves, but the lie bothers him, so he decides to return to the hall to confront Father Paul. Inside the hall, Father Paul is in distress, waiting for someone. The vampire creature that rejuvenated him then appears and begins to fill a bottle with its blood. This reveals that Father Paul regularly consumes the vampire's blood and secretly mixes it into the communion wine for the churchgoers, which is how everyone has been healing. Just then, Riley enters the hall. He sees Father Paul on the floor and a strange-looking creature standing before him. The vampire notices Riley and immediately attacks, injuring him.
When Riley doesn't return home, Aaron searches the entire island for him but finds no trace. Frightened, she goes to Sheriff Hassan to file a missing person report. The sheriff informs her that 2 other people have also disappeared, Joe and the drug dealer. He assures Aaron he will try his best to find Riley. Meanwhile, Father Paul can no longer go out during the day, so he reschedules church prayers for the night. Later, Mildred attends tonight's prayer. Everyone is astonished to see her, as she was near death but is now completely healed and growing younger each day. Sarah herself is astonished, but we know this is all due to the vampire's blood. After the prayer, Father Paul delivers a very aggressive sermon. He urges everyone to stop engaging in worldly battles and instead join God's army. Hearing this, Mildred leaves the church and tells her daughter Sarah that this is not the father she once knew. He has changed, and Sarah no longer needs to come here. At midnight, Riley appears at Aaron's house. Angered, Aaron asks him where he has been since yesterday. Riley asks her to come with him on a boat to the middle of the ocean. Aaron agrees. Once they are far from shore, Riley begins to tell Aaron everything that happened. He explains that he saw a vampire monster in Father Paul's church hall, which attacked him and began to drink his blood. We are then shown that Riley died while the monster was feeding on him. However, because he had also ingested the vampire blood mixed in the wine, he reawakened, but as a vampire.
As soon as he regained consciousness, he tried to flee, but the sunlight began to burn his skin. Father Paul saved him, telling him he was no longer human, but a messenger of God, chosen by God. He also revealed that he was indeed Monsignor Pruitt, and that the creature Riley saw was an angel that had made him young. Bev Keane then arrived and tried to persuade Riley to join them, also telling him he was chosen by God and was special. At that moment, Riley could feel Keane's heartbeat and the blood rushing through her veins. She then offered him a glass of blood, which he couldn't refuse, and drank. But he understood that all of this was wrong, after which he came straight to Aaron. Riley had come to the middle of the ocean, so he couldn't escape what was about to happen to him. Aaron still finds it hard to believe Riley's story. Riley then confesses his love for Aaron, saying he will always love her, even after death. Aaron tells him she has started to love him again too. Riley tells her she must get off the island, no matter what. Aaron doesn't understand his words at that moment, to which he replies that she will understand everything by morning. Just then, dawn breaks. And as the first rays of sunlight hit Riley, his entire body burns to ash. Aaron screams in horror. We then see Tara, the girl Riley killed in the car accident, taking his hand and leading him across the sea into the afterlife. Immediately after this traumatic event, a terrified Aaron rushes to her friend Sarah and tells her everything about Riley's death, Father Paul, and what's happening at the church. Initially, Dr. Sarah doesn't believe it, but then she looks at her mother, who now appears even younger than she does. Sarah had previously taken blood samples from several islanders, including her mother. When exposed to sunlight, as Aaron described Riley's burning, the blood samples also ignite. Convinced, Sarah tells Aaron that the church members are likely adding some substance to the wine that is causing people's old cells to regenerate, making them young and healthy. Sarah and Aaron realize Father Paul is mixing something harmful into the wine that people are unaware of. Sarah immediately goes to Sheriff Hassan with this information. However, Hassan states he cannot investigate the church without evidence. Seeing this, Sarah, her mother, and Aaron decide to leave the island. They discover that the mayor has removed all ferries to the mainland for the day because Father Paul doesn't want anyone leaving the island tonight. Father Paul is planning an Easter Mass where he intends to reveal something significant to everyone. Meanwhile, the mayor's associate, Sturge, cuts the wires and disables the networks of all remaining boats, isolating the island completely. Sarah, her mother, and Aaron see people heading to the church with candles. Realizing something terrible is about to happen to them, the three decide to go to the church to try and save everyone. Sheriff Hassan's son, Ali, insists on going to the church, claiming Father Paul is going to perform a great miracle that he wants to witness. The sheriff decides to accompany Ali, partly to investigate the strange occurrences Sarah had reported. Everyone gathers at the church. Father Paul first confesses that he is Monsignor Pruitt, admitting, "I lied to all of you. I met an angel who gave me its blood, and by drinking it, I became immortal and young forever. God resurrected me. Today, I will make all of you immortal and eternally young like me, because the angel's blood already flows within you." Everyone is stunned. Father Paul then calls Sturge forward and has him drink poison, killing him. Seconds later, Sturge reanimates as a vampire. Terrified, Sheriff Hassan tries to leave with Ali.
We are afraid, and an angel of the
But the vampire monster, dressed like an angel as described by Father Paul, appears before them. It spreads its demonic wings. Bev Keane hands out glasses of poison to everyone. She persuades Ali to drink it. As Sheriff Hassan is about to shoot them in anger, he is restrained by the crowd. Ali drinks the poison, dies, and resurrects as a vampire. Witnessing this, people gradually begin to die and reanimate as vampires. However, some, like Sarah, Aaron, Lisa, Riley's brother Warren and his mother, Sheriff Hassan, and Mildred, refuse. Enraged Mildred shoots Father Paul in the head, temporarily killing him. But the vampire monster snatches Mildred, flies away with her. Chaos erupts in the church. The newly turned vampires begin feeding on those who haven't turned. Keane imprisons the remaining humans.
Minutes behind.
Seizing an opportunity, Aaron shoots Keane, and they all escape. After dying, Keane also resurrects as a vampire.
The survivors devise a plan to kill the vampires, believing that if even one escapes the island, it will destroy the world. This fight is no longer just for their own survival, but for all of humanity. As they are discussing this, Keane arrives and sets their house on fire. Riley's mother goes out to create a diversion for Keane, allowing the others to escape from the back. Riley's mother then stabs herself in the neck and dies. The remaining group, led by Aaron, makes their way towards the shore, while Lisa and Warren retrieve some guns and gasoline from Joe's house. They then spot the vampire monster in a house, drinking someone's blood. Realizing it's a monster, not an angel, Lisa shoots it, but it's so engrossed in feeding that the bullets have no effect. Lisa then douses it with gasoline and sets it on fire. The creature, engulfed in flames, flies away and extinguishes the fire. Some infected people then pursue them. Evading them, they all run towards the shore. They set fire to all the boats there to prevent any vampires from escaping, saving only one small boat. They put Lisa and Warren on this boat and send them away from the island. Outside the church, Sarah's mother, Mildred, has now also become a vampire. She and Father Paul are sitting in the church talking. Father Paul tells her he intended well for everyone, but ended up ruining everything. He only wanted to heal her. Their conversation reveals that Father Paul and Mildred were a couple in their youth, and Sarah is Father Paul's daughter. He didn't acknowledge her at the time and left Mildred. However, Father Paul soon regretted abandoning Mildred and Sarah. He brought the angel to the island solely to make Mildred and his daughter immortal, so the three of them could live together forever. Mildred becomes emotional upon hearing this. Meanwhile, Bev Keane burns down all the houses on the island to kill any remaining survivors or force them to take refuge in the church. She spares the church and its rec hall, as she has prepared rooms there to shield herself from the sun. However, Aaron and the others know the vampires will hide in the church and rec hall during the day, so they plan to burn these structures down. Seeing the island burning, Father Paul confronts Keane, saying, "What have you done? This is wrong." Keane dismisses him as useless and cowardly, declaring he is no longer the father he once was. Hurt by this, Father Paul decides to stay in the church until morning. Upon entering, he finds Dr. Sarah dousing the church with gasoline. He reveals to her that he is her father and loves her very much. Sarah begins to cry, but before father and daughter can talk further, Sturge shoots Sarah. Father Paul and Mildred rush to her. To save her life, Father Paul tries to make her drink his blood, but she spits it out, saying she doesn't want to become a blood-drinking monster and would rather die. As Sarah dies, an enraged Father Paul sets the entire church on fire and carries Sarah's body out. Elsewhere, Bev Keane declares herself the new leader, the new father, and shoots Sheriff Hassan, who was trying to burn down the rec hall. Aaron is also about to set the hall on fire when the vampire monster attacks her and begins to drink her blood. However, Aaron, demonstrating immense bravery, uses a knife to repeatedly slash its wings, which the vampire doesn't notice, engrossed as it is in feeding. Seeing his father's condition, Ali sets the rec hall on fire himself, completing Hassan's task.
He makes the sunrise in the evil and the good.
Witnessing this, Hassan quotes a Bible verse to Keane. He makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, which enrages Keane, and she shoots Hassan again.
As the church burns, people slowly begin to come to their senses. They realize they are only killing their own families. They feel immense guilt and blame themselves for the island's destruction, deciding to die with the first light of dawn. On the other side, the vampire tries to escape, but its damaged wings prevent it from flying properly. We then see Erin, wounded, lying down and looking at the sky, awaiting her death. Before she dies, she dreams she is with Riley. Keen, however, is still unwilling to die. She frantically tries to dig a hole in the ground to escape the sunlight. Then morning comes, and with the sunrise, everyone burns to death. Keen doesn't escape either. Sheriff Hassan and his son Ali say their final prayers and perish together. In the movie's final scene, we see Lisa and Warren on the boat. They are the last survivors of the island. Lisa and Warren feel the ashes of the burning island, and along with that,